Hey guys, Carl Dukes, Mike Bell, Dukes and Bell, Day, our executive producer, taking you behind the scenes of our pre show. It's a big weekend, man. And look, Mike and I are headed up to Athens. We'll be up there 2 o'clock, 2 to 6 today. Grindhouse Killer Burgers right there off of Lumpkin. Inviting you guys to come out and hang out with us. It's going to be a good time, and we'll talk plenty about the Dogs in this big matchup with Alabama. And starting with that, Mike, I mean, look, we're going to talk about, the inner workings of the O-line, D-line. We'll get into some of the matchups that we're looking forward to. But the bottom line is everybody expects Kirby Smart to win this game, specifically because he's at home.
Right.
But we all know, and if you don't know this, 1-6 against Bama. So when you start talking about the success against one particular team, Kirby has owned the SEC outside of Bama. It's sort of like Ryan Day in the Big Ten owning everybody except Michigan, right? So it's kind of weird. But I don't know how much that plays into this game. And as we look at this game coming up tomorrow night in Athens, 7:30 kickoff, Georgia is favored. They're at home. Mike, you keep talking about high scoring. You think it's going to be a high scoring game?
Well, I mean, it's just hard. And we talked to David Pollack, as you mentioned. You'll hear the David Pollack conversation. It was early in our show. That's why our pre-show, we let you in. You'll hear it at 5:20 today as we're at the Grindhouse. But Pollack was saying the same thing you and I were chatting about yesterday with Day. Where's the pass rush? Where's the pass rush coming from the Tide? Where's the pass rush coming from Georgia? So otherwise, I presume that Kirby's going to tighten up some of those things that happened in Tennessee. But you got two great wide receivers, arguably better than what Tennessee threw out coming at Georgia. So I think you could argue that if these teams don't get a handle on the quarterbacks, it's going to be an over. I think you could see 28 points or more, certainly for each team.
Yeah, and look, Gunnar Stockton has shown, right, against Tennessee on the road that he can show up in these big moments. But the problem right now for Georgia, and Kirby admitted as much, and we'll dive into this too coming up at 2 o'clock. Ty Simpson's really good, guys. How good, we're about to find out.
Right.
But I think the Florida State game is not a real indicator of Ty Simpson because, as Mike mentioned, we talked to Pollack yesterday. Something that people leave out of that game and the situation that happened was they got down, and then it rained like hell, and then they had to throw the ball every down to try to get back in it. There was no balance, right? And they became predictable, and all of a sudden Florida State was teeing off on them. If this game is back and forth and they are able to create balance because their star running back, Jam, is back, that is going to be interesting because now you can run the ball, Mike, against Georgia potentially, and it's going to allow Ty Simpson to maybe go over the top. So I don't want to say he's better than Gunnar, but I do think this is one of those prove-it moments for him like it was for Gunnar in the Tennessee game.
Right on. So I think that Alabama, I mean, they are kind of defined by that loss of Florida State in the minds of maybe the gambling public. But I mean, I think the number is where it is because of kind of the Kirby history that Carl touched on. So just right now at 3, down to 2.5 on FanDuel, by the way.
Oh.
So yeah, just moved there. But at kickoff, I think there'll be a lot more Georgia money. I think a lot of people like Georgia. I think there will be the perception because of the Florida State game that, this Alabama team is still not Nick Saban, it's Kalen DeBoer. But I still think this game comes down to I believe the last series. I think it's going to be another one of these heart in your throat games for Georgia fans.
Yeah.
Carl, to your point with the return of Jam Miller, Georgia's run game wise, to your point, like you said, they've been pretty successful. I think they're like 28th. Ranked 28th in success run stops. But again, this is probably going to be one of the better backs they face. And now what that does for me personally, now it does cause a concern about if Jam can get going, now your DBs, you know what I'm saying? Now do things start opening up and do those deep threats start to become a problem with Ryan Williams and company, for that DB group for Georgia?
So if you are Kalen DeBoer, what you want is Kirby. First of all, you want to get Jam going, and then you want Kirby to start counteracting that, right? With and Glenn Schumann as well with run blitzes. Because we know Georgia doesn't have the push they've had in years past up front. That's evident with the 4 sacks. So if he's getting 4.5 yards a pop early in this game, Kirby's going to be like, we got to shut this run down. And now you start running run blitzes, meaning, guys, you're filling the gaps. You're going to try to limit them. And now that's when you open up over the top. I'm just telling you, Kalen DeBoer is hoping that's what they do because it's going to benefit him. And speaking of coaches real quick, look, we can talk about Kirby and 1-6 and all this. Kalen DeBoer's got to win this game too, guys.
It's huge for him.
We can't just say, all right, if Alabama loses, it's okay. This hot seat percolating thing for him is still there. It's like the underbelly, Mike. Like, it's there, but it's shown its ugly face again. If they lose to Georgia, people are going to again say, "Here's Kalen DeBoer in another big game at Alabama who can't show up."
Right, and nearly lost the game when they had the big lead to Georgia, last year. By the way, one note: the offensive line. I don't know if you mentioned it, Day, but Georgia is going to be without Ernest Green at right tackle. So I know Hughley came in Tennessee. I guess it's Bo Hughley. So Kirby, the dreaded, it is what it is when he was asked yesterday about the offensive line. But that's just something to watch, and see how they handle that. They'll rotate more guys and change it up a little bit. They had to do the same thing up in Tennessee.
And let me self-correct. They're 10th in rushing success rate allowed. My fault. Okay. So they've been very successful, but again, they really haven't
played a running back like
Jam.
I agree. He's going to be the best running back. The question is, coming off this injury, how effective is he going to be? I don't know if he's in a rhythm. Running backs, man, they're like, you got to warm them up, right? And I don't know how good he'll be in his first game back for Alabama. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. We're at Grindhouse today. It's Dukes and Bell. Make sure you join us 2 to 6 in Athens. If you're out that way, we'd love to get a chance to see you. All right, man.
Also, big weekend, too. Last week was kind of Carl and Day, kind of a meh week. You got the Oregon-Penn State game tonight, or tomorrow night, same time as Georgia. We touched on Florida State and Virginia. A trap. It's a trap game for those guys. And then Georgia Tech. We'll also focus on them because Carl and I were saying before this pre-show, so it's the pre-free show, that 14 points is a bit rich for Georgia Tech to be given on the road at Wake.
Yeah. And we'll talk about, what Coach Brent Key has got to do. Like this again for them, they're not familiar. This team, this program is not familiar being in this spot, meaning being ranked, going on the road, being favored. That's not where Georgia Tech has lived the last decade. So this is a big moment for Brent Key as well. Before we get to that, though, Falcons guys, look, our former producer, his name is Turtle, Chris Thomas, had Dan Orlovsky on last night on his show after we got done. I know a lot of people were reacting to it. And again, Orlovsky explaining his breakdown of the pistol and the Falcons and what he doesn't like. And I just, I'm at a point now. It's the end of the week. They, to me, have to
over
execute.
The pistol? Are we over the pistol?
Well, no, they just got to execute. Like all this criticism, to me, it's interesting only from the standpoint of when it worked, it looked damn good. We forget Kirk Cousins was in the pistol when he threw for over 500 yards, which was a franchise record last year, in an overtime win. Same offense. Like, when it works, it works. Right now, they're not executing, and that's kind of where I'm at. Now, Mike, if they come out Sunday and they look like crap and they're not executing, obviously our OC, everybody's going to catch heat. But that's the thing for me. Like, I don't think it's the offense. It's the predictability and the play calling that is affecting these formations and what you're trying to do. So I don't want to say the pistol don't work because everybody's running a damn pistol.
Right. So it's not working now. When you got 3 touchdowns in 3 games offensively, that's a major problem, especially when you got all the athletes we've got now. They fired the receivers coach, passing game coordinator, Ike Hilliard got. We've said, it's I thought it was kind of a jive move because some of these guys are not 100%. But Penix has got to see it. Cousins is a pro. Penix in his 6th game, just not maybe as even though he played in that format, using the shotgun at Washington, for some reason it's just not translating. So a lot of pressure on Zach Robinson because I guess he'd be next on the chopping block.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if we fire our offensive coordinator 5 weeks into the season, we're in trouble. And I mean that because I don't feel like, look, they got a couple of old heads in the building, people that we don't talk about, but I don't feel like you have a young gun, right, in your holster that you can go to and say, man, this is the next upcoming guy. He's going to be great. He calls plays. We don't have that Mike McDaniel behind the scenes that nobody knows about, right? That's what I'm saying.
Right.
He was here, guys. He did the same thing with the 49ers. Like, if you had an issue, you could have maybe gone to him and given him an opportunity. I don't feel like, Mike, this is just me, like TJ Yates is that guy. TJ's been with the organization for a while, but I think if that was to happen, as you say, he might be the next guy on the chopping block. If this doesn't go well Sunday, then I think this team is in real trouble.
Also today, we're going to go behind enemy lines. Who are we having on from D.C.?
John Keim. He covers the Commanders for ESPN, and so we'll get a chance to talk to him about what I mean, because if we're honest with ourselves, Commanders are coming into this with some issues too. No Terry McLaurin, still unsure about Jaden Daniels, and I know they got the win last week with Marcus Mariota and whatnot, but it's still a good opportunity, I believe, if Mariota is going to be named the starter. I'm even confident if Jaden Daniels is the starter that this Falcons defense, because they've been kind of the consistent. Last week probably wasn't their best performance, but I do feel like defensively they can kind of if they can get back on track and get back to a little bit of what they did against the Vikings and take a page out of the Packers playbook and how they kind of contained Jaden Daniels, didn't let him really get outside the pocket, made him do things through the air. I think that this game can be okay. The question is just, again, can the offense get into the red zone this week and then actually finish the job? Because remember, last week, they didn't even get in the red zone.
And hey, you watched last night, Thursday Night Football. Admittedly, I did fall asleep. How'd that game end?
Yeah.
A field goal kick, Carl.
Yeah, I know.
52-yard field goal. Are we going to have to – is Romo going to be dialed in? Because I don't want – this is a game – the Commanders and us are so evenly matched.
Yes.
With or without Jaden Daniels, because Mariota can still move around. This could be very, very easily come down to a field goal. And I hope we're not talking about that on Monday if it comes down to some of this field goal.
Look, I wanted a field goal change or a new place kicker or whatever, field goal kicker. And now I'm crossing my fingers every time Romo runs out there, right? Now I'm like, because we assume he's going to be the guy. They brought in competition. I don't think they'd go with the kid from Pitt this week. You're at home. You're indoors. You need a dub. But, yeah, man, if Mike – I probably would not even look. But I'd be like this. I wouldn't even look if it came down to that because that's how I feel. I'm not sitting there like, oh, we're about to get the win. But it's going to be interesting, guys. More Falcons conversation coming up today. All right, let's shift gears real quick. Spend a little time on Georgia Tech. Here's the reality. Georgia Tech can match their best start in 11 years. 5-0. It's been a long time. They're on the road, big favorite. They're ranked 16th in the country, and they take on an ACC opponent in Wake. Mike, the thought here is they'll run the ball, they'll dominate. But you talk about like Florida State, could this be a letdown for Georgia Tech?
Right. And this is something where we talk about the Falcons and Falconitis, and you could argue that certainly nothing to do with, whether it was Chan Gailey or Paul Johnson or whoever, but there always seems to be with Tech, and this is previous regimes, a game you're not supposed to win, you win, then you lose a game you're not supposed to lose. But I don't think Brent Key allows this to happen. I think Brent hammers that message home to these guys, and I think even if Tech plays it doesn't have their best day, they can still handle Wake. The question is, do you want to bet on this game? You like that 14 on the road. That's wow. That's people really buying in to Georgia Tech right now because Wake with a first-year new head coach, they come in this game though 2-1 for what it's worth. And Wake did fall to NC State. That's kind of a meh NC State team. So if you're looking for any kind of like juice, Kennesaw State they beat, and they beat Western Carolina.
And they barely beat Kennesaw State. Remember, that was the opener. That was the game that Kennesaw State almost, I think it was 10-9 was the final in that one.
So if you feel that perhaps, if Georgia Tech can prevent any turnovers from happening, then maybe you like that number. Matter of fact, maybe I like that number myself. Maybe I've talked myself into that number, and now 13.5, Carl, on FanDuel.
I think it's a statement win if they were to cover that spread.
Yeah, because
I think that's a very statement win.
Yeah, right. They're averaging 39 points a game, 38.8. They're averaging 492 yards a game. Haynes King has set himself up to be the ACC Player of the Year. If he balls out in these kinds of games where you just dominate, he might be a Heisman candidate, guys. And I know nobody's talking about that right now, but this kid's running for over 100 yards every game and throwing for over 200 yards. He doesn't throw picks. I mean, he's been really efficient. And so as we talk about Haynes King and his leadership, Mike, if you believe in Georgia Tech, this is a game where he runs for 2, throws for 2. This is that kind of game, right? So I like Tech in this game. I think they win, but it's going to be interesting because this is uncharted territory for them, man. Yeah, we can say all these things, but like you guys, we know this. You start winning on the flats, you start getting a big head because everybody on campus is like, yo, y'all are good, y'all are good. And you start believing everybody and your boys telling you and texting you. You got to stay focused, man. And there's so much work to be done. And they haven't been here. You don't have a team that has been in this spot. He's got a lot of experience, but not a team that's been in this spot where they just know how to handle these games. So it should be a big moment for Georgia Tech. But we'll talk more about that today as well. Big show from Athens, guys. Dukes and Bell, be there. Day tonight, by the way, you're doing the high school show after we get done?
Yeah, so I'll jump on with you guys and do picks with you guys at 3:40. So make sure y'all tuned in for that to see if I can maintain my lead after this weekend.
Well, it's just a one-game lead. I'm wondering, should I go mean green and take North Texas again? Get that over? I don't know, man. You just talked me to Georgia Tech. Monster College weekend too. Everything from poor Auburn's got to go on the road play. Was it A&M? Carl, there's a lot of tough matchups in the SEC, and of course Oregon and Penn State, which I think a lot of folks will be watching. So it's from last week where it was kind of snooze fest. There's some big games. Notre Dame and Arkansas, a nooner, by the way, too.
Yeah. But I'll be sitting in for Sam Crenshaw, 6 to 10 high school scoreboard show. Oh, guys, I made it to my game in decent time too, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Got
Yesterday?
Got there just before second quarter, and it ended up being a great game. I got there for all the fireworks. So
right on. Nice. Well, we were
but I don't understand. I don't drive the connector. I don't do traffic. I don't see how people do that. It's brutal. I would be miserable. I know.
I do it every day. I do it every day.
And a lot of people are.
But you do it every day from Midtown. Doing it from Roswell through down 400 through the connector.
Well, since we're thinking about our destination today, I got an hour and 48 ahead of me now. Hey, diddle, right up the middle through the connector to get to Athens. So I got a jet.
Yeah, it's a haul, man. We'll be there. I hope you guys come out. Thank you guys for being here. However you're accessing this, Twitter Live, YouTube, all the social media platforms. We'll see you guys today at 2 o'clock. It's Dukes and Bell.